Well, you have to talk about the Jon Jones incident.
Bro.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what I want to do? I was so heartbroken. However, I had a dude reach out to me, a smart guy who is
That knows about Turinabol, or
yes, who's balls deep in the potential steroid that he got
busted
for. So let me I'm gonna give my take on the Jon Jones thing, and I'm gonna get into what exactly this expert said. I don't want to give his name out because I don't want him to get a ton of hate, but this guy's brilliant with this, and I had no idea about this drug that he tested hot for. What a sad story. What a terrible story. I was more upset for Jon. I was brokenhearted because you have the best mixed martial artist of all time, and he's consistently good at two things. He's very good at two things, and he's consistent with these two things. Beating people up and being a fuck up. That's what he's consistently good at. You know what? Let's add a third one and letting us down. We can always count on Jon for three things. Beating everyone in the world at light heavyweight and probably heavyweight. Being a fuck up and letting us down. Those are the three consistent things with Jon Jones. I'm off the Jon Jones train. It's such a heartbreak. Here's another thing to take into to consider, I should say. Since USADA kicked in, Jon has failed 3 out of 4 tests. The one test he did not fail was that OSP fight. Yep. He looked like dog shit in that OSP fight. Let's be real. And he goes, it's because it was awkward. I didn't risk anything. I don't want to show anything against DC. I'm not buying that. You want to get in and out as fast as you can and not take damage. So it just taints everything that he's ever done. Where do you rank him now? What does it matter? Imagine if you're Daniel Cormier. You're on vacation in Hawaii. You had a low point in your life. You just got murked. You know you're never going to beat Jon. You get a call from Dana White, and he goes, Jon pissed hot. You're the champ now. What? What are we talking about? How the hell is he the champ? And then he can never beat him.
I'm sorry.
What's up? You're good. We can edit this.
Sorry.
You're good. All right. So the whole thing. So imagine DC on vacation. You get a call. Hey, Jon pissed hot. You're now the light heavyweight champ of the world again. DC's only losses are to Jon Jones. I mean, it's just such a shit show. And my biggest thing with this too is the UFC needs a star like Jon. Name another star besides Conor McGregor than Jon Jones. And go, Chin. Go through the champs right now. Let's go middleweight. Bisping. He's not a pay-per-view draw. Okay. Not at all. Let's go to welterweight. Who's your champ at welterweight? Woodley. Not a draw. Let's go to 55. Your champ's Conor, but he's out, playing grab ass in boxing world, so he's out. So you have an interim belt of Tony Ferguson versus Kevin Lee. I love both those guys. Neither one's a draw. 45. You got Max Holloway. Not a draw. Again, I love all these guys as a fighter. They're all amazing athletes. I'm talking about being a pay-per-view draw. 135, Cody Garbrandt. Potential to be your next superstar. Looks the part. Knockout artist. Good-looking dude. Not a pay-per-view draw. Lower than that, you got DJ.
Not a draw.
We know where he's at with the draw. He's not a draw. So you have all these guys that are not a draw. So Jon being out, who does this help? Can you guess who I'm going to say? Conor McGregor. It puts all the chips in Conor McGregor's corner now. And he can go after whatever happens with Floyd Mayweather fight. When Dana goes, hey, man, we need you to fight. He goes, very cool. But those old terms we agreed to ain't happening. I'm worth this much now. I'm the only player in town. What else are you going to do? Now he has a monopoly on the UFC, which is hilarious to me, So now he can say, I need this much. And they go, we don't have that. Cool, I need a percentage of the company. So Jon being out now, being the pay-per-view draw second to Conor, really, who's left, him being out helps Conor so much more in negotiations. It's not even funny. So let's talk about what Jon tests hot for. I'm not familiar with this stuff. I probably wish I was familiar when I was fighting. I probably would have won more fights. But so I'm not going to say this guy's name because I don't want him to get hate. So he says, this gentleman says, Jon Jones wasn't trying to take Turinabol. Jon has been hanging around powerlifters for a few training camps, which is true. It's a notorious drug in powerlifting. It's called Myaboladrone. It's a drug that is rumored to have driven Mike Tyson to orally borrow some of Evander Holyfield's ear. So that's the drug that made Mike Tyson freak out and rip his fucking ear off.
Yeah.
I think that had trauma, and his obsession with pigeons probably had something to do with that, but whatever. So this gentleman goes, why do people take it? And this is a credible source, people. It's very difficult to test for MIB. That's like the street name for it. Its half-life is measured within hours. It's out of the body extremely fast. The metabolites are even more difficult to test for afterwards. Most other drugs are detectable for months after. This drug is not. It's not a drug that is taken in milligrams. It's taken in micrograms, microdosing. So when guys microdose, it's because it's so hard to test. It's within hours. So if they test you right after, you can take it and you're pass the test fine. It's measured in micrograms. It's taken micrograms. So the levels in the system are extremely small because the smaller you take, the faster you can be out, right? It requires a very sensitive test. Often a dose of 200 mcgs is too much for some lifters to handle. Mike Tyson, don't take that much. Problem with MIB, it's impossible to find the real drug, but you can easily buy what it's purposely MIB via so you can buy like on the underground where you don't know what you're getting. Because it's not from a pharmaceutical company, you're getting black market shit, right?
Yeah.
So you're messing with fire.
Yeah.
So usually they're buying Winstrol, Dianabol, Turnabol, or Androl. Fighters that take real MIB never get caught. Lifters that use real MIB never get caught. So it's good stuff. They never get caught. The half-life is so short they can't catch them. Guys that get a bad supplier always get caught because it's cheap and it's mixed with something. So he goes on to say, what is MIB? MIB isn't a buildup drug. One dose will increase strength immensely for a short time. And its biggest proponent is increased aggression within 20 to 30 minutes like you've never seen before. The drug profile perfectly fits the narrative and timeline of a failed test of Jon Jones. If you follow Jon's training camp logic, he says, why take a build up drug before the contest? It's very sensible to believe them. But for those of us who know and personally use MIB, we know he was looking to kill DC and just got a bad supply here. MIB isn't a drug that Jon could legally get despite his resources. It's almost exclusively obtained on the black market. It's a risk all fighters and some lifters take, although most lifters do slightly more ethical thing and compete in untested federations with other untested athletes. Just a food for thought. Love the podcast. Thanks, man. So it sounds like in microdosing it'd be hard to pick up. But that dude is straight up dropping knowledge. I've never heard of any of this stuff. Again, maybe if I'd been a better fighter and took some of this stuff. But it sounds like that's what's going on here. And when Jon's team released, it's a tainted supplement, we don't know what's going on, I'm out, man. You've broken my heart too many times. Yep. I'm like that battered girlfriend. I keep coming back. I've had it. I'm out. No more, mister. I'm out. I'm off the Jon Jones train. And so I saw Sean Shelby. We just had a deep convo just about everything. And I was like, dude, how about your boy Jon Jones? How fucking
Don't tell this story
Jon
if you can't. Because I talked to him a lot, including about Jon Jones. Those are all off the record conversations.
I agree. A lot of it's off record, but he was just like, I'm a chatty Cathy, so I know this, and I know if you tell me something, if you say off the record, I'm cool. I'm obviously not a journalist either. So, but it's nothing. I just told him, I said, heartbreaking, man. And I said, you know who loses in all this? I'll see Jon does.
Everybody.
I said, the UFC, you guys need a star so bad. I said, let's go through it, Sean. Who's your star? Who you got right now?
Yeah.
Name a guy who's a pay-per-view draw. And I went through all of them. He goes, I get it, man. You're right. I said, and you know who it helps out more than anybody? And you're writing that column you said tonight about what's next for Conor?
Yeah.
I said, when Jon Jones tested hot, this put all the chips in Conor's corner. Because now he's the only cash cow in town. So you want him to fight under those current terms? You're crazy.
Wow.
You're crazy. No one thought about that.
Was he receptive to this, or like admitting of this, or
he was just going, dang. He's going, dang. I went, think about it, man. If you're Conor McGregor, now you're like, you want me to fight Nate Diaz or Khabib in Russia, which he was like, that's, Conor did say Khabib in Russia, that's what he wants to do, eventually and stuff like that. I went, he's not doing that. There's no way he could do that for a number of reasons with Khabib, and I went to that with him. But I said the amount of money he's going to be able to demand now, man. Because Jon Jones, it has this butterfly effect.
Totally does. I was saying this on the MMA Beat a couple times, and you know, I remember back in the day, certainly during your participation days, when you'd have a pay-per-view that did not so great, 250 or something, which is not terrible by normal standards, but by UFC standards,
not good.
It's typically a little lower. But there was this like cadre of people. They could not do $1 million. They would never do $1 million in their lives in terms of pay-per-view buys, but they could easily do above 500,000, above 6, above 7. In John's case, above 8. They both Cormier fights did above 800,000.
Yeah.
So I call it the upper middle class. Conor and Ronda, they're good for $1 million, right? Or Ronda's gone, but
every time they're good for $1 million.
They're
Brock, good for $1 million.
Basically good for $1 million every time. And then you have the guys who are not. But dude, if you can get guys who are selling 750,000 pay-per-view buys, you're printing money.
I agree.
You're printing money.
Name someone right now.
Nobody. Who the fuck? Nobody. He came back and looked like $1 million, 30 years old. You thought, okay, all right, whatever happened in his life, I don't know.
We don't care either.
Yeah, and the best part is, did I think he had it all figured out? I thought he had it figured out enough to like keep it shit together.
Enough where he's still gonna be able to do strippers and dick pills on the side. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I need you to do some of that, but
out of competition, not in competition.
Yeah, you're good. I didn't think you were arrogant enough to do this. And I did a podcast there today, and I had a freaking dude reach out to me who knows the stuff he tested positive for and went through this whole thing and what it is and why you take it and the short half-life, and it makes sense that he would test positive after, not before, because of this. And this type of steroid you get, it's so hard to get pharmaceutical grade.
Turinabol?
Yes, it's so hard. So it's usually power lifters and stuff like that, and you buy it in bulk because it's cheaper. And he was breaking all down how a lot of times that stuff can be laced with other things, and you think it's going to be out of your system, and it ends up just fucking you. He goes, it happens all the time. That he had a list.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I've talked to some people who have used before, and they're like, those tainted supplement excuses? He's like, well, first of all, those can be true. But apparently, among the people who buy steroids, you can buy steroids, and those can be tainted with other steroids.
That's what Homeboy was saying.
Yeah.
He's like, you think you're buying this, and and they think you're fine, and your half-life is this, and it should be out in hours, and it's going to make you super aggressive against Daniel Cormier, and you're going to come out, and you're going to have Superman strength and beat his ass. But then if there's something in there that's chopped up and that maybe you don't know what factory it came from, you're going to test hot.
Someone asked me like what I think of it all, and like the answer is I don't know. There's two ways to look at it. One is that you caught him with the more jaundiced view, the negative view would be that like, okay, you caught him with post-psychotherapy stuff, the clomiphene and the letrozole, right?
You're talking about his previous one.
Yeah, you caught him with that, and then he has his suspension, and then again, the jaundiced view would be turns right around, test positive for a steroid. So what do you think that means? Someone on that argument would be like, this dude's been obviously using. The other argument could be exactly what he presents it to be, which is that he's not a cheater, but he might be negligent and irresponsible.
Listen, man,
and the answer is I don't know what to think of anymore. But here's what I do know.
That last answer though is that's a little too.
It's plausible, but how probable is it?
Here's the other thing. The argument with that is, since USADA's kicked in, John's failed 3 out of 4 tests. The one test he didn't fail.
Well, the coke thing I don't give a shit about. Honestly.
I don't either. But a failed test is a failed test.
Yeah,
but I get it's not
drug
PDs.
Recreation.
However, he looked like complete shit against OSP, where he didn't test hot for anything. Cocaine.
You don't buy
steroids.
The argument that like it was this late switch? And
not at all.
Really?
Not in the least bit. He should torch that dude. I've been in the training room with OSP. Been in the training room with Jon Jones.
Is that right?
He should torch that dude.
Interesting.
So when I see that and I saw that lackluster performance, and you go, all right, well, that's the only one he
He'd
did
also come
fail.
back from a long time off from that one too.
He came longer off, right? Against DC.
He
and
looked awesome.
Beat the shit out of him.
He looked awesome against DC. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing. Here's my only point is I don't know what to think. I'm not a scientist. I don't know. I don't know shit.
I'm not either.
I don't know.
But being around professional sports, a guy who keeps like JDS, right?
Yeah.
I'm not ready to hang JDS.
Me neither. We have actually seen a lot of dudes be like the supplement industry is not regulated. Barely. Okay. It is technically regulated by the Food and Drug Administration, but they mostly test for manufacturing standards. They don't test your shit.
No.
Right? So it is absolutely very plausible that you can have a tainted supplement. And that could be very well the case with John. I don't know what the answer is, but I agree with you with JDS. All I'm pointing out is with John, like whether he is completely guilty of everything that the negative side of the argument would be, or whether he is absolutely needs to be exonerated, whatever the answer is, what I do think is that after UFC 214, right after it was over, I was like, dude, he might be like a real redemption story. Even if he exonerates himself now.
That ship sailed.
The ship has sailed. The full redemption story is not possible
Just play
anymore.
the bad guy.